let Clark do this to me. I'm not gonna find anything. It's ridiculous to think Patrick has anything to do with a cabinet and a green glow. I don't believe it.
I'm afraid it's true.
Patrick, is this the mask that was stolen last night?
The mask of the ancient ones.
What's going on?
It's quite simple. The power of my people is about to be returned, and now that you're here, the ceremony can begin.
We talk Superman, and we know what's happening. We talk Superman, and we cover everything.
Welcome back to All-Star Superfan, the podcast that celebrates Superman in all his forms. Comics, movies, TV, and occasionally episodes so bizarre they make Mr. Mxyzptlk seem grounded. Today we're going full Darby O'Gill as we celebrate St. Patrick's Day in the only way that makes sense, by reviewing When Irish Eyes Are Killing, the infamous Season 3 episode of Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman. That's right, it's got magic, it's got murder, and it's got, well, let's just say some very interesting interpretations of Irish culture. But Rob and I are not venturing into this mystical madness alone. Joining us are two incredible guests who know a thing or two about reviewing classic superhero TV. Zach Moore of Always Hold On to Smallville and Matt Truex of Lois and Clark. So pour yourself a pint and prepare for a deep dive into this druidic episode of Lois and Clark. Is it a hidden gem, a Celtic catastrophe, or something in between? Let's find out. Good day, gentlemen.
Oh my god, I loved that.
And I got it in the first take.
I liked Celtic catastrophe.
I was worried about druidic, and I was worried about Mxyzptlk.
You nailed it, Alan. Nailed it.
Happy St. Patrick's Day, everybody.
Happy St. Patrick's.
Oh, top of the morning to you.
Top
of the morning.
Top of the Darby O'Gill to everybody.
I've never heard anybody say that wasn't an American.
So it doesn't come up in your folklore, in your literatures?
No.
Okay. It might just be from the Lucky Charms guy.
We don't even have Lucky Charms here.
Wait, hold on a second. Leprechauns are a thing in Irish folklore. Let's get that. That is the thing. We have a leprechaun museum now. Most of what we know about leprechauns comes from Americans telling us about leprechauns.
You're welcome.
So
they're significantly less significant in our culture than you might be led to believe.
yeah, but they do exist in Irish folklore, and in fact, this episode we're going to talk about has an accurate depiction of what leprechauns are in Irish folklore. We'll talk about that in a while.
So we're just, for the listeners, we're all raising a glass here, living up to the stereotype. We all have our drinks, our Guinnesses, and our what is it, St. Arnold, Zach, is it?
This is a St. Arnold Irish Hello. It is from St. Arnold, which is a craft brewery here in Houston, Texas, which has seasonal beers. And I just so happened to find a six-pack of this in the garage refrigerator. So here it is.
and mine is a cheap Napa Valley Cabernet Sauvignon. the most Irish of places in California, Napa Valley.
Well, Matt, I did another podcast about A View to a Kill last night, and that's a film that has a lot of Californian red in it. So
hell yeah.
It made me thirsty for what you're drinking.
And I wanted to ask you guys, I don't know if you noticed, but do you like our t-shirts?
I did notice green shirts. Okay. Irish Superman.
Okay, so this is a Action Comics #1 Irish Superman. Is that what this is, y'all?
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, with all due respect, why does this exist?
Yeah, I wanted to make a Superman T-shirt, but I wanted to kind of skirt the copyright issues as much as I possibly could, and I felt like Action Comics #1 is probably the safest way to do that. And if you look closely,
I think they look phenomenal.
The S in the center of the if you want to even call it a triangle, what do you call the weird shape from Action?
It's a shield, but it's a
shield,
kind of a medieval shield kind of a design.
But the S is actually a Celtic font that I use. As well.
I don't know if it comes across on the screen, but they are very green. They're very bright.
I see
green.
very green. And is the S orange?
Yeah, the S is orange, so it's the Irish flag colours, yeah.
All of this is A+ work.
How have you been keeping, guys? What have you been up to? Zach, you're on season 10 now of Always Hold On to Smallville. You're flying towards the finish line.
I am. We're wrapping up our episode-by-episode coverage of the Smallville television series this calendar year. And then we have lots of fun things planned after that. There's lots of comic books and novels and things to cover, so the podcast will continue, but its mission statement will be concluded in the not too distant future, which is exciting, and looking forward to this next chapter of my life.
and Matt, you've been releasing some bangers on Lois and Clark recently.
Yeah, well, I'm enjoying semi-Superman podcasting retirement, but it's certainly keep him busy with Zach on his Patreon. We're doing Always Hold On to DC Book Club and doing all the Superman origins this year, so that's been fun. And then it's just, I can't stay away from 90s Metropolis for too long, so you'll be hearing many familiar voices over the next couple of months there, but always trying to keep the feed somewhat warm there.
And you've both finished up on Always Hold On to Flash recently. What a great run that was.
Yes, Always Hold On to the Flash, the 1990 Flash TV series that ran 1 year, but was recently released in high definition. One of my favorite shows of all time. I know one of y'all's favorite shows of all time. Both you, Rob, and Alan have been on the show, and Matt was kind enough to be my co-host through running through the streets of 1990 Central City, which look a lot like the streets of 1990s Metropolis, actually.
The best thing we did over there, for anyone this is a little masturbatory, sorry, but the most fun I had.
Put your pants back on, Matt.
I know. The most fun I had, at least, was we pitched season 2 of that show, what would have been season 2 of that show, and tried to do it in
that was a great episode.
As realistically for 1991 to 1992 as possible. You can judge how successful we were, but holy hell did we have fun doing that.
I think our true calling is to be a showrunner for a superhero show in the late 90s or early 2000s.
Early 2000s, yeah.
We really missed the boat.
That's our sweet spot, yeah.
For anyone who missed it as well, you guys did a great episode where you pitched a hypothetical season of the Aquaman show with Justin Hartley. I enjoyed that immensely. Having not seen that pilot in about 17 years, I thought it was great fun.
Someone's got to do this important work.
In both cases, what I loved about both of those episodes was you didn't just let your imagination run away with it. You run away with yourselves and just be like, well, maybe this in this episode, Darkseid shows up, or in this one they go through a boom tube and they go whatever. No, you were very kind of regimented, and you went, what are the parameters of a CW show in the early 2000s? It's got to be water-based crimes. There's got to be a boat. There's got to be a ravine. It's got to be kind of dull.
County fair nearby they can rent for the weekend.
Yep. Water-based crime made me laugh. So it was so difficult.
And the very same was true of the Flash season 2. I thought it was just such fun, and it as Monica and Friends says, rules make the fun. That's what made it so much fun.
Yeah, we're tooting our own horn. You guys are actually doing good work with getting amazing interviews and getting new information out there to Superman fans, and we're just what if this had gotten a season 2?
Well, I was just about to say, now that we're best friends with Ilya Salkind, he may have passed on Rob's pitch about a Santa Claus goes to college in Florida, Universal Studios TV show. But we could pitch him Flash season 2 or something similar.
Let's see if he's seen the Aquaman pilot. Let's just ask.
And apparently, as long as Superman appears in it, he has the right to do anything with any DC characters. So.
So he said, yeah. So Aquaman, Aquaman show or Superboy season 5 is probably the best thing to pitch to him.
So just kind of, we're going to lean into the whole, the kind of what I call it, the hallmark Irishness of the St. Patrick's Day holiday here.
The thoughtful portrayal of Irish culture, yes.
Yeah, we're not going to be too gatekeepery around here. So we're going to lean into it a bit on this show. Just out of curiosity, like, say, Zach, St. Patrick's Day in Texas, what's that like? Do you do the big parades? Do you go every year, or do you go drinking, or what's the story in Texas on St. Patrick's Day?
So we do have parades, at least here in Houston, Texas. Houston is a very melting pot. It's a very, it's a city where a lot of people come to, from across the country and across the world. So we have a lot of cultures, a lot of diversity here, which is great. I've been to some St. Patrick's Day parades. My family is part Irish. So my dad has always been like, "Oh, it's St. Patrick's Day." So we're occasionally have gone out. Green felt hats were worn and things of that nature. So yeah, it's an event here. Like, it's an understood just excuse for adults to go out and have a pint or two at a pub or another wise alcohol serving establishment. So yeah, it's a thing here. It's on the calendar and celebrations take place.
Excellent. And what is it like in LA, Matt, with St. Patrick's Day? Is there parades in Los Angeles?
No, I mean, if there are, I'm not going. Like, LA is not a good place for like that type of thing, in my opinion. I grew up on the East Coast where, don't take this the wrong way, my mother killed St. Patrick's Day for me like every year. That or there was always a parade that in high school I was in the band, and I'm just like, oh God, we gotta get up early and do the those are
the worst. I feel that
and
pain. Yeah.
like there's a point in this episode where Clark asks Miss Kipling, "Do you like Irish food?" My experience of Irish food is just like my mother's corned beef and hash, which, like, I don't know how Irish we are, but she just kind of claims all of white Europe as our lineage. So to have to do that every year for just like whatever American version of that was, like, I never got into St. Patrick's Day because I'm like, oh, I get to get up early and there's bad food, fantastic,
Do you want to hear a fun thing about corned beef? We don't actually eat it. We don't actually eat it in Ireland. I've never had corned beef in my life. But there's an interesting reason for that, right? So we eat ham in Ireland a lot, right? So ham and what is it, Alan?
Cabbage. What is it, Alan? Cabbage. What is it?
Fake Irish.
It is 2 o'clock in the morning. Just for listeners, it's 2 o'clock in the morning here.
It's like 2 o'clock in the morning. So we eat a lot of ham in Ireland, and when the Irish immigrants went to New York, they moved into boroughs of Manhattan that were typically Jewish, a lot of Jewish people. So there was no ham. So instead of ham, they had corned beef, and that's why corned beef is such a thing for Irish Americans. But we don't actually eat it here because it was like the closest thing they had to ham.
You're not missing anything. That is no way to spend St. Patrick's Day.
Just so you know, Rob, you fucked one of my quiz questions, but it's fine.
Oh,
it's fine.
shit, sorry.
Okay.
We also don't eat Guinness jalapeno poppers, but we'll talk about that another time.
Myself, Rob was actually working during the week there in the local town to me, about 20 minutes out the road from me. So we met up and had a couple of drinks in his hotel, and we were discussing St. Patrick's Day, and we both realised that our best St. Patrick's Day that we had personally experienced had been abroad in other countries. Mine was in Brisbane, Australia. Where was yours, Rob?
Now, I say my best. It was also my worst. In Toronto, about 10 years ago, I was over visiting Parker, and Saoirse was with me, and I had this surge of patriotism because all throughout my trip to Toronto, people kept telling me how, oh yeah, do you guys have that in the UK? What's it like in the UK? And I'm like, Ireland is not in the fucking UK. And I had to keep correcting people. I was getting very offended. And then all of a sudden it was St. Patrick's Day, and there were shamrocks everywhere, and there was Irish music playing, and I got very patriotic. And I also got very drunk. And I fell asleep in a toilet, and my friends went looking for me for 3 hours, trying to retrace my steps around the streets of Toronto. Maybe Rob went in here. Maybe he went into Tim Hortons. Parker will tell you the story sometime, Alan. And lo and behold, I just walked out of the bathroom like 3 hours later. I was like, oh, hey guys, what did I miss? And they were like, where have you been? And I was like, I was here the whole time. I don't know what you're talking about. So yeah, not a great night. Saoirse was very, very angry with me, as one would be.
As is her right, yeah.
But I survived to tell the tale.
So, guys, now that we know your history with St. Patrick's Day, I was thinking we might do, before we get into the meat and potatoes, so to speak.
The meat and potatoes.
Ooh, there it is. The first one of the night.
I thought we might do a little bit of a quiz about Ireland and see what your knowledge is like. But in a segment I'm calling Great Crack, Great Krypton.
I don't understand the reference, but sure.
So crack, spelt C-R-A-I-C, is an Irish term for. It isn't even from the Irish language. It's just kind of a general vernacular term for good times, good fun. So good crack is a good thing.
That would mean something very different here. Yes.
So I've sent Rob a couple of the questions. There's 5 questions in total. Now this isn't a Matt versus Zach kind of thing, so you can confer. Okay. So I'm gonna ask you 5 questions. I'm gonna give you 4 options.
Is this Irish already?
Yeah. I'm gonna give you all a couple of options, and you just pick whatever one you think. Rob has not seen these questions before right now. He's probably going to be like, where did you come up with these? So here we go. Great Crack, Great Krypton. Question 1. In Ireland, the term the Irish goodbye refers to what? A. A poetic farewell speech delivered in perfect Gaelic. B. A traditional toast before downing a pint of Guinness. C. Leaving a gathering without saying goodbye. Or D. Faking an emergency to escape an awkward conversation.
That's a Truex goodbye. I'd say it's C, right, Zach?
C is certainly C. Yeah, well, we use that terminology a lot here in the States.
Excellent. So answer C. Yeah, the Irish goodbye is when you quietly slip away from a party without saying goodbye. It's a time-honored tradition, efficient and drama-free. To be honest, I didn't even know. I'd never heard this term before, but I am guilty as sin of doing this constantly whenever I'm on and once I hit my limit on a night out, I'm just gone.
So it's accurate then.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like
you as an Irishman did it without even knowing that it's a thing.
I just Kaiser Sose myself out of that place. Rob, do you want to go with question 2?
Let's go for it. Question 2. A Guinness. Okay, I truly don't know what this is. A Guinness conspiracy. Guinness, Ireland's most famous export, is known for its rich, creamy head. Well, but which of these is actually...
Just leave that hang in the air for a minute.
Which of these is actually true about a pint of Guinness in Ireland? A. It must be poured in exactly 119.5 seconds or the bartender is legally fined. B. The Guinness in Ireland does taste better than anywhere else. C. It is illegal to serve Guinness in any glass that is not a Guinness branded glass. D. St. Patrick himself brewed the first batch in 432 AD.
I mean, Matt, I think it's between B or D. I don't think anyone's going to get arrested.
Yeah. I don't have a good history with Guinness, so I'm gonna have to defer to you here, Zach.
Well, I mean, but B is like the best. I mean, that's subjective.
Yeah, but look who's doing this.
We should go with B. I think.
I think so. I think we got a pander at the very least. Yeah.
Yeah. To be fair, B is correct because I have drank some Guinness in foreign lands and it is atrocious. Rob is shaking his head. It is atrocious.
It's no. Like I do agree with you, but it's still a subjective answer. Like it's not.
Yes. Thank you.
All I'm at this point, USA. We got 2.
Yeah.
Like this is what a good time to be screaming USA into a recording.
So question 3. Now I'm not 100% sure about this. This could be a little bit more American leaning, but this is what I found online. So question 3: the origin of Halloween. Which of these spooky facts about Halloween is actually true? A.
I got this.
Halloween was invented by Bram Stoker, the author of Dracula. B. The tradition of carving pumpkins comes from an ancient Irish myth about a man named Stingy Jack. C. Irish people invented trick-or-treating as a way to get free food during the Great Famine. I was actually proud of that one.
That's
D.
Lovely.
The first recorded Halloween ghost story was set in an Irish castle that no longer exists.
Sorry, what was B again?
B. The tradition of carving pumpkins comes from an ancient Irish myth about a man named Stingy Jack. Or Stingy Jack,
I don't know.
maybe.
I had my witch phase, but I don't.
I know Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, and the old man from RoboCop explains the history of Halloween. So I think I'm gonna go with D.
Is it a real history? Yeah, okay. Because also, like, are we talking Halloween? Are we talking Samhain? Like, where?
I'm impressed that you came close to pronouncing that right, Matt.
That was closer than
Samhain.
It's been a while since I broke out my my spell
I
book.
watched Halloween 3 recently, Zach, and I was delighted to hear Dan O'Hurley pronouncing it completely right. Now he is from Cork. He's an Irish actor, so
Unlike Donald Pleasance, who says it wrong.
I thought he's from Wexford.
Wherever he's from, he's not from America or the UK, which is where 90% of the movies he's in claim he's from.
The father of Brad Wilson from Superman 3.
That's right.
You know, I recently found that out, and that really oh wow, the more you know.
Sorry, Matt, I genuinely do mean it. By the way, you nearly got that right. It's Samhain, but anything is better than Samhain.
But the answer is D, the Irish castle that doesn't exist. That would be my guess.
The answer I got was the tradition of carving pumpkins comes from an ancient Irish myth about a man named Stingy Jack. Now, I have never heard this myth before, Rob. Is this true?
It's true, but in fact, this is another Irish-American thing. We didn't carve pumpkins, we carved turnips.
That's true.
And the original jack-o'-lanterns were turnips, and they were actually far more kind of
creepy,
frightening and unsettling looking. The pumpkins, again, pumpkins were like a thing that the Irish-American immigrants started doing because pumpkins were more commonplace over there, and that's why we have pumpkins now.
Well, trick-or-treating wasn't really a thing here until like the 80s, 90s, I'd say, really, was it?
My parents trick-or-treated
in
the
the
60s. Like, it was a thing. But they didn't get candy or sweets or anything. They got like
a box in the face,
fruit and nuts and stuff, you know.
Yeah.
Well, pumpkins are way easier to carve than turnips, I would assume.
Oh yeah, they are. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Right? Smashing Turnips. It's my favorite band.
Smashing Turnips.
Do you want to go with question 4, Rob?
Question 4. Celebrity Showdown. Which of these famous celebrities is not actually Irish? Okay, interesting. Liam Neeson, Pierce Brosnan, Daniel Day-Lewis, or Bono?
It's either Daniel Day-Lewis or Bono, right?
Zach, it's Daniel Day-Lewis or Bono, right? But Bono is the king of Ireland, so I can't imagine that's...
But that could be part of the trick.
Do
question
they have
of it
different
all,
rules about who can be king? So,
right. It's tough.
Really,
these are tough.
Here's the other thing. I know nothing about Daniel Day-Lewis. He's such a chameleon.
I mean, he was in Gangs of New York, and he hated the Irish people, right? Or did I get that confused? So, I'm going to say he's not Irish.
But he's also in My Left Foot.
My Left Foot, yeah.
I'm going to say Daniel Day-Lewis is not Irish.
Is that your final answer?
Let's go with Daniel Day-Lewis.
Okay, so that is correct. Daniel Day-Lewis. Daniel Day-Lewis is not Ireland. Is not Irish. He was born in London and he has Irish blood and all that. So that's fine. Now, interestingly enough, I would say most Irish people would probably say that they would prefer to claim Daniel Day-Lewis as an Irishman
than Bono,
because Bono is Bono is a pox, as we like to say here. His politics are suspect.
Yeah. He's not very well liked in Ireland. I think we talked about this before.
Yeah, why has this come up? I feel like
it has come up before. I remember it coming up at some point. Yeah,
Alan, you might remember this when Kevin Smith did his live show here in Vicar Street, and Bono came up or something, and everyone started booing, and Kevin Smith was like, "Wait, what? You guys all hate Bono? Why?"
I remember when I was like 7 or 8. I think I might have told the story. I definitely told it on a podcast before, but I remember when I was like 7 years of age, I was in a bar on like a Sunday with my parents. Like it was like I don't ask
normal
me why.
Irish
like
story.
late 80s, early 90s, whatever. And this biker dude came over and he was like, "I will give you like a £5 note if you go over and tell that guy sitting at that table that he's full of shit." And I was like, "I will absolutely do that." And I walked over and I said, "Hey, you're full of shit." My mother ran over going, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry, and whisked me away. And it was only years later when I remember telling her that story. Do you remember that time that guy, dared me to do that and gave me £5? And my mother was like, "Yeah, do you know the guy at that table was Bono from U2?"
Wow. Amazing.
A proper Irish breakfast, a full Irish breakfast traditionally includes all except which of the following? Number 1, A, black pudding, or as he called it in America, blood pudding, which is technically correct. But
it includes that. And
Yeah.
I think it includes that. So that's
B, what we call here rashers, what you call over there bacon, like strips of bacon.
Okay.
maybe not. Maybe not.
C, cabbage. D, baked beans.
Oh, I think beans is a part of it.
Beans is a part.
So it's cabbage
Beans is
or
a
bacon.
lot of stuff over there.
Yeah. Is it like a sausage thing and they don't do bacon?
I
Is it
think
both?
it might be no bacon. I think it's B. I think the cabbage is part of everything. But
Yeah.
I don't.
It
It's not
certainly
a
was-
strong answer, Matt. But I would pick bacon.
It was the best part of the corned beef and cabbage meal. So let's go with bacon.
Incorrect. Rasher / bacon are an essential part of the Irish, or what we call the Irish fry. What do you have? You got sausages, rashers, i.e. bacon. You've got eggs. You've got
So no cabbage then.
beans.
No
there's no
cabbage.
cabbage. No cabbage.
No.
Okay.
No.
All right.
So you didn't do too bad, guys. Overall,
Now, hold on though, Alan. Like a full English has beans, a full Irish does not have beans. I would say.
I would never have an Irish fry without beans.
No, I think that's the thing. I think a full English is anyway.
Fighting over breakfast is also an Irish tradition, right? So like this is actually very
Yeah.
Okay, so look, we'll give it to you. So to be fair, you did pretty good. I think that's pretty much 5 out of 5. Not too bad. Not too bad.
I've learned more about Ireland from that than I did from this episode. If I could just run you down my list of what I learned. Great at darts,
Yeah.
Famously.
the Irish. Talk to leprechauns. We knew that. We'd established that already today. Related to druids. That's it. That's all I got out of this episode.
all of that is technically true.
Yeah, to be fair, it's not, it's wrong in other aspects, but to be fair, it got some of the basics right.
Before we move on to the episode, can we do the Irish language thing first?
Of course we can.
So and it does relate to Superman. So Zach, I want to hear your attempt first, and I want you to guess what the sentence I've given you is. And bear in mind, I have written this phonetically in English, so you don't have to worry about translation, or you don't have to worry about pronunciation. You just pronounce it the way.
So for those who don't know, Rob is a fluent Irish language speaker. I went to an Irish primary school, so I was fluent at one point, but I am very rusty now because I'm 40 years of age. But Rob is an absolute fluent Irish speaker.
And for those who don't know, by the way, we do have a native language. I think some people are surprised to learn that sometimes. So give it a go, Zach, when
All
you're
right.
ready.
Bra or boya bioge goni.
Not bad at all.
That's not
Man,
bad.
I
Wait, that's all he gets? I've got like okay.
now, Zach. The question is, what do you think that translates to?
Carry on, my wayward son. I don't know idea what this.
Carry on, my wayward son.
It roughly translates to always hold on to small.
Really? That's amazing. I'm gonna have my own T-shirts made that are green, red, and I would not have guessed that. So thank you.
Yeah, but Balya means town and Biog means small,
Okay.
so it's kind of small town, Smallville.
Excellent.
Can you say it correctly?
Bra Aaron Balya Biogagoni.
Mm.
So there you go. Yeah.
That sounds like it's intelligible.
Does Matt have one too?
Matt has one, and it's a little bit more obscure.
Oh, right.
Dare you? Gra digitalk, romance letrock, cod a yerhak anri.
Again, not bad at all.
Not too bad. Not too bad.
What quote do you think that is?
Is a hack from Smallville. I can't even make that name up. I don't know. I'm trying to think.
Digital love, electronic romance. What would the king say?
Wow.
Incredible.
To be fair, I would struggle to have gotten that right. To be to be honest.
I knew it'd be a great quote from the show.
So the Irish is not one of the Roman languages.
No, it is not. And boy, can I not wait to talk about that.
Because I thought Rome invaded and conquered Ireland.
That's because this episode would make you think that, wouldn't it?
Exactly.
So what we're talking about in this episode, guys, is obviously it's an episode of Lois and Clark, When Irish Eyes Are Killing, Season 3, Episode 4.
Sunday, an old boyfriend makes a bid for Lois, but when a secret plan is revealed,
Patrick stole the emeralds and plans to sacrifice you.
who's the real green-eyed monster? Lois and Clark, Sunday.
Originally aired on October 15th, 1995, and has a runtime of approximately 46 minutes. Plot synopsis is: in the episode, Lois Lane's old friend, Patrick Sullivan, arrives in Metropolis and expresses his romantic interest. To make Clark jealous, Lois agrees to go out with Patrick. Meanwhile, a series of thefts involving rare, antique items occurs across the city. Clark becomes suspicious of Patrick, believing he is connected to the robberies, and plans to use Lois in a druidic sacrifice. Lois initially dismisses Clark's concerns as jealousy, but Patrick's true intentions are eventually revealed. Superman intervenes just in time to save Lois and prevent the ritual from completing.
Can I just interrupt, Alan? I regret that we didn't try and find out when this first aired in Ireland, because there are people inside the All-Star Superfan group who I suspect would have been able to get that information for us. If you're listening, Daniel Mardle or Mark Witherspoon, I feel like either of them might have been able to track that down. So if you are listening, lads, we're giving you that job.
Total waste of an Irish episode in America, though. Like, what are we doing in October with this?
So, Matt, I'm going to start with you first of all before we get into the meat and potatoes of the episode. You being the Lois and Clark expert, being the host of Lois and Clark, obviously, tell us about do you remember your original viewing of this, or do you have any memories of watching it originally back in the day, or your thoughts of it from back in the day?
This was airing when I had just started 5th grade over here, so I was 11, I guess, 10, 11. And it was a time in my life when we were recording the reruns on VHS, and my mom and I would watch the teaser, go to school. I'd go through, whatever's going on and homework and whatnot. And at the end of the day, before dinner, we'd watch the rest of the episode. So I remember vividly this teaser because it was just a weird one, it was just like, we're going to an auction, we're off the lot, everything looks weird. So I remember that part vividly, and I remember not enjoying the episode a lot later that day after homework.
And what about you, Zach? Was this your first time seeing this one, or have you seen it before?
No, I had seen it when I was watching through my Lois and Clark DVDs that Matt had given me generously, listening through his, because, Matt on Lois and Clark, Lois and Clark, the new podcast of Superman, I was listening along. I wanted to keep up, and I was making guest appearances, so I wanted to be up to speed. And I had seen a percentage of Lois and Clark over the years, but never the whole show. So I watched it then, and I had heard you guys talk about how infamous it was, and got to it, thought, okay, a lot of this stuff is questionable and ridiculous, but there's actually a lot of good stuff in here. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see. I might enjoy this more than the rest of y'all. It sounds like, I don't know. I'm not offended by any of the cultural stuff because I'm not Irish, Irish descent, but whatever. I'm not, properly from Ireland. So that didn't hit me the same way it would hit y'all, of course. But I actually thought there was some really great Lois and Clark relationship stuff in here, which is the strength of the show. And then, of course, I rewatched it for this. So I guess I've seen it. No, I've seen it 3 times. I've seen it 3 times because at some point, we were all talking about it on some group chat, and it kind of got me in the mood to watch it again at some point between now and then. So yeah. Anyway, flawed, but a good time, a fun time can be had with this episode, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Rob, what's your experience with When Irish Eyes Are Killing?
Yeah, I remember. Actually, fun trivia. It wasn't called When Irish Eyes Are Killing over here, because the troubles were still ongoing at that stage, and the BBC, or at least it wasn't called that in the BBC. It might have been called that on RTE here in Ireland, but when they aired it on the BBC, they renamed it to When Irish Eyes Are Smiling. So,
which is the name of the song.
Yeah,
this is such a Lois and Clark, title. It's like, let's take a song, like a phrase that's famous, and change a word to just anything. It's like, big girls don't fly, Irish eyes are killing, Anyway.
I do remember.
I'm sorry, it's not Vortex.
Wow.
I do remember actually watching this when it aired on TV here in Ireland at the time. So I would have been, like, I guess 7 maybe, and I remember Clark asking Jimmy to look for all psychiatric hospitals in or around Dublin. I remember your man's Irish accent and thinking it was strange even back then, and I distinctly remember the kind of back and forth between Clark and Jimmy as he's going, oh, check this out and do all this research for me and then come back to me with the information so that we can progress the plot. And I even remember then thinking, this formula is getting tired. Like even as a 7-year-old, I was like, this is kind of the same every week now. Like I'm ready to move on, but like I actually don't hate this episode. I hate some of the Irish accents in it, and I hate some of the factual inaccuracies in it, but man, does it end with a Superman fighting a guy in a Doctor Doom costume with green emerald laser powers. What more can you ask for? This show should have had more showdowns like that, in my opinion. And Zach, you're absolutely right, there is some fun Lois and Clark stuff in it. Some really, really good lighting in this episode. We can talk about that later on. But I think what makes it so funny and so charming is the just weird batshit Irish stuff more so than anything else. Other than that, it's kind of just a meat and potatoes mediocre episode.
Yeah, and I'm pretty much the same. I remember watching this originally back in the day and just being blown away when they mentioned Dublin. Like when that one scene, because it's so removed. Like there was it just. I think it's hard to explain really, like how kind of isolated Ireland felt back in the day from kind of American culture and stuff, and stuff we would watch on TV, like whatever it was, 90210 or anything that was kind of Baywatch or anything that was out at the time. So the fact that like Clark literally said the word Dublin, I was like, oh my god, like Ireland is a place, like
it's canon.
Feasibly, he could come here. Like it's crazy. Yeah, it's canon. It was very similar to that infamous episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation where they spoke about Irish unification.
Which also had to be edited for the BBC, as I understand.
I think it was completely banned, wasn't it?
It was either banned, or then when it finally showed it, they edited out the scene where Data's like, "Whoa, by I think it was 2024 actually, so we missed that."
It was 2024.
Star Trek fails again at predicting the future. So.
And like technically,
Up the Long Ladder, however,
I was just about to say,
banned.
like it's Up the Long Ladder is guilty of a lot of the things that this episode is getting. Now, Up the Long Ladder is a lot worse, I think, than this is. There's a bit of fun to be had with this. I've never been offended, and by when Irish eyes are killing, and I think a lot of that is growing up with like. I grew up with episodes of Murder, She Wrote where she'd come to Ireland and she clearly wasn't in Ireland at all, and it was all American actors putting on accents. Now she did come to Ireland for the TV movies later on, but there was episodes of the show. I'm not going to be fact corrected on Murder, She Wrote, Rob.
Angela Lansbury spent like the final decades of her
living
life
in Cork,
in Ireland. Yeah.
But if you watch the actual show, there's a couple of episodes where she comes over to Ireland, and a lot of it is external shots of Ireland, but it's all filmed on a studio lot in Los Angeles, like you can see it.
Fantastic.
And I kind of grew up with all of that, and so I was never offended by it. And I actually remember really, really liking this episode as a kid, and because I think it has such a nostalgia for me, going back and viewing it and reviewing it, even though I know it's not a great episode, I still really enjoy it whenever I go back and watch it, and it's probably one of the episodes I go back and watch the most, even though it shouldn't be by any stretch of the imagination.
Now, Alan, I understand what you're saying about, oh, you said Dublin, we exist, right? Because like I live in Houston, okay, which is the 4th largest city in the United States, but nobody talks about it, right?
Houston?
Planet Houston. Outside of that, nobody.
What is
Houston,
this
we have a
Houston?
problem. Planet Houston, what a strange surface. Everybody knows those lines, right? But it's the same kind of effect, like in Independence Day, that they show a shot of like a Houston freeway and it blows up, and the theater we're like, yeah, because they said Houston, right? And then in Superman Returns, they're like, from Metropolis to Houston to Gotham. I'm like, we're up there with Metropolis and Gotham? Look at that. Like, so I was excited by that. So I understand why you gravitated toward the mention of a city that you know and are by and live by.
Yeah, it absolutely blew my mind at the time. I remember it clearly. So I always have a soft spot for when Irish eyes are killing, even though it's a ridiculous episode. Do you have anything else to say, Rob, before we move on about it?
Just I think I have pointed this out before, that I found it so funny that he asks Jimmy to look up psychiatric hospitals in or around Dublin, and there is in fact like a home for the criminally insane not 10 minutes from where I grew up. So we do have those.
Wow. You grew up next to an Arkham?
Like you know, like a 10-minute drive away. Like it's not like it's right beside.
Wow. I mean, that's pretty close.
So Matt, not to put you on the spot, but just say in the context of the series overall, because when we go into the episode at the start, there's obviously relationship issues going on here. So I believe it's around the point, because obviously I didn't watch any of the ones directly previous to this, when we were reviewing this episode. I assume this is around the time where there's an episode Lois gets injured and Clark decides that he can't be with her anymore because he's putting her in danger, even though he's been doing that for 2.5-3 years. So he's kind of put the kibosh and everything at the moment. So they're not technically together anymore. That's roughly where we are around here, is it?
Yes, it's a great time to be alive. It's she got hurt and he's doing the like, oh my God, you get so hurt. You're only in danger if we're together. We can't be together. It's all very stupid. I love that immediately in the start of this episode, she is calling him out on like, he's like, well, when you tell me why we're not together, it sounds dumb. It's like, it is dumb. And like, that's where we are right now. So it's a great time. It is this kind of era of this season of them trying to figure it out in whatever version that is my favorite era of the show, my favorite era of their relationship, I should say. And I could have taken like 3 years of them just like trying to understand how to date while dealing with the Superman of it all. It's this show, so we get like 5 episodes of it and then we're engaged. But that's where we're at. So they're currently off again because of him. At the end of this episode, they'll be off again because of her. And at the end of the next episode, we're back together forever.
And because I remember, like, I appreciate that part of the show now, but I remember at the time being so frustrated with it because, like everybody else, you just want them to get together. But we won't go through the episode scene by scene, but I have to say one of the things I really appreciated about this, I really liked the opening sequence where they're kind of bickering in the car. The whole plot is that Perry, the Daily Planet, are holding an auction, and she's kind of been put up for auction to raise money for a charity, and they're kind of bickering over the fact that they're not together anymore. So technically, she is available to be put up in the auction, and she goes into the antiquities. What I really like about it is the fact that Clark Kent cannot parallel park. I really related on a huge level to the fact that he struggles to parallel park. Now, he overcomes it with his superpowers, but to be fair, I was like, that was the most relatable Clark has ever been to me.
It's a great doofy use of superpowers that this show excelled in. I say with absolute love and nothing but encouragement in my heart.
And like, there's a nice little joke there where she goes on about how, it's not exactly like bombs are going off everywhere I go, and then she goes into the auction and a smoke grenade is thrown in on top. She's like, don't say that. He runs in, and I like the fact that he does the super save as Clark. Everybody's knocked out by this gas, and he goes in and he kind of inhales it all, runs over to the fireplace, blows it out, it goes up through the chimney, and I really enjoyed. I really enjoyed all that.
Did anyone watch that movie Conclave that came out recently?
I did.
By the way,
yes.
No.
The smoke bomb in this looked very similar to the smoke they use for the white smoke in the Vatican in that film.
They have a pope. Yeah.
The Irish have chosen a new pope.
Perry White has chosen the pope. Good.
Bono again?
Blowing it up through the chimney is a smart way to do a budget save. You don't have to have Superman go fly up into space like he does and other things. It's just he blew up the chimney. As always,
he's so good at directing whatever he's blowing with his breath.
Yeah.
Like it just goes wherever he needs it to. He's so powerful.
It's all good though. I really enjoyed it.
Great.
They look great. I thought it's a great opening sequence.
Well, they do look great, but we're in the era of the haircut.
The haircut.
Really from scene to scene.
Yeah, well, the hair is a little inconsistent, and also throughout the episode, which I like. I love this. Actually, we see the promo shots of them for the first 2 seasons with all the like Lane and Kid, the biggest news team in town, and it's just in your face how much better that her hair looked. And I liked Clark's glasses from earlier in the show too, by the way. So like, I like them both looking that way better, and you see those images throughout the episode. But they do look fantastic.
To be fair though, it's not Wanda Detroit hair. The Wanda Detroit hair is, I think, the worst that the hair ever got.
It's not good from scene to scene. Like the Superman, it's also terrible. Like it's really just depends. It's a tough time right now. They're figuring it out.
Okay, is it a wig right now, Matt?
No, this
that
is
what's going on here?
legit. That's why we have it, unfortunately.
Okay.
Because like 2 episodes into the season, she made this crazy hair choice, and everyone was like, what the hell do we do with this?
Wait, so this is her actual hair?
Yes, it's season... I'm so sorry to all of your listeners that came here for Superman Talk. I'm going to talk about Terry Hatcher's wig now. Season 4, the beginning of season 4, like the first couple episodes, she's in a wig up until Bob and Carol and Lois and Clark, and then they're letting her have her hair.
Because I have written down, is everyone familiar with the Brady Bunch movie from the early 90s?
Yes.
Yeah.
Of course.
You know, like when Davy Jones from the Monkees shows up in that?
Sure.
It looks like whatever he's wearing on his head in that looks like what Terry Hatcher has here. But apparently it's her actual hair, so apologies to Terry Hatcher. Please come on the show.
Is it the same thing he's wearing when he shows up at the Spellman house in Sabrina?
Yeah. Not long after. Yeah.
Wow.
And like I said, we're not going to go through it scene by scene, but we're talking about the hair. I have to say one thing about Lois in this episode. I'm a fan of some of the outfits, and this was one of the ones when I was 11, 12 years of age that caught my attention was the green blouse with the pink skirt during her auction time. Lois is looking very very classy. But we have the auction, and everybody.
The Catholic guilt is real.
The Catholic guilt is real. We have the auction in the Daily Planet, and everybody's betting like really low numbers here. We're talking like $20, $30, $35 to go out on a date with Lois Lane.
Look, it was 1995. That's like $100 today.
This was a boom time. This was the Clinton 90s. Like everything, like this all should have been higher.
I love Lane Smith doing the auctioneer bit as well. Can I get 5? Can I get 4? Can I get 5 more?
And then Clark is winning. I think the bid is like $150. He's in a bidding war with another very handsome gentleman, and he goes from 100 to 150. I can't imagine anybody who wouldn't pay over $150 to go on a date with Terry Hatcher in 1995. But I digress. And just before Lane brings down the hammer, Patrick Sullivan comes in. Rob, talk to me about Patrick Sullivan.
Well, first of all, it should be Patrick O'Sullivan, okay? if he's actually from Ireland, again, talking about things that get lost on the boat over to America. The O is one of the common things that gets lost at Ellis Island. To simplify the name, they would get rid of the O. That's why you have like John Connor and all these names. It's like no, over here we have O. It would be Patrick O'Sullivan. What I'll say about this guy is you can hear that he's trying, and like there are some like the fact that he calls him Clark, that is
Clark.
That is faithful to the way an Irish person would say that name. That there are subtle nuances in his attempt at an Irish accent that are true to what we actually sound like, and then there's a lot of other stuff where it's just like. Are we in London now all of a sudden? Are we in Manchester?
He goes into Beatle kind of. There was a few occasions where he sounded like he was from Liverpool, like he was a member of the Beatles.
And then God bless him, like he's saddled with stuff about mystic stones and all this stuff, and you're just like he's speaking in an accent that is not his own, like, and he's delivering this terrible dialogue. I can understand why it comes across a bit stiff,
Well, yeah, because it's hard to emote when you're like having to put on a voice.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
You can only have so much emotional variation, so it's a very kind of just stagnant performance for the most part, right?
I will say
it is his job as an actor. So.
Yeah, exactly. I will say he has that kind of classic Lois and Clark romantic rival punchable face.
Yes,
that like Scardino has.
Yeah,
and
he does look like a dick.
He's Irish Scardino.
What's that doctor? The Dr. Dieter, like all those guys that Lois nearly gets with, that you just want to punch their lights out. Like he has that about him. So. He could have been worse. I've seen worse.
I was just about to say it. So the actor's name is Julian Stone, and I think he was in General Hospital and a few other things over in the States. I don't
Classic
know.
Irish name, Julian Stone.
Julian Stone. I was just about to say what Rob said there. I have seen worse. Like it's not the worst portrayal I've ever seen. But my main issue with this episode, looking back on it all these years later, is 90% of any of the issues that people have with it could be solved if they just had cast an Irish actor to play the part.
Where would we find such a thing, Alan? They don't exist.
That goes for a lot of stuff. Like I remember.
Listen, Pierce Brosnan was doing GoldenEye at this time, so he was not available.
Oh, he was the only one, the only one in Hollywood.
Only one. But like you could have Daniel Day-Lewis probably could have done. Oh, sorry, he's not
Daniel
Irish.
Day-Lewis.
Zach, I'll tell you who could have done it and was in Hollywood at the time. Patrick Bergen, future Morgan Edge. Patrick Bergen could have done it.
Patrick Bergen, the recast Morgan Edge from Smallville season 3, Shattered.
Oh, I was like, who?
Yeah,
Okay,
Robin Hood.
thank
I
you.
always remember from Robin Hood.
I have a funny story I want to tell you about that
and
Robin
from
Hood
a great
movie.
made-for-TV Frankenstein movie, by the way. But we move on. Yes.
Great Frankenstein movie. I've rarely heard that.
Alan, you mentioned Robin Hood, and this is a great story. Zach, are you familiar with the show Mystic Knights of Tir na Nog?
No, of course he's not. Of course he's not. Nobody's familiar with that show.
I am not. I am not familiar with that show.
Okay, it was a Saban show. It was a Saban show. They made it to, it was another kind of Power Rangers type show, right? They did VR Troopers, they did a bunch of Beetleborgs, and Mystic Knights of Tir na Nog was another one that they did, and they shot it here in Ireland, and they had all these merchandising deals that fell through, and they ended up cancelling the show. And all the cast and crew were like just standing by, like ready to shoot more episodes. And they were like, no, the show's cancelled. Sorry, guys. So rather than like turn all these people away and, have people put out of work or whatever, over the weekend, they came up with this St. Patrick TV movie. And they were like, let's get our old friend Patrick Bergen on the phone. Patrick Bergen came over, played St. Patrick using all the costumes and sets from Mystic Knights of Tir na Nog.
Amazing.
And that's why that movie exists. I think that's incredible. And I worked with a guy who worked on the Mystic Knights and the St. Patrick's Day
That
thing.
rocks.
So, there you go.
It was basically a Power Rangers in Ireland, Rob.
Yeah, literally, yeah. It was literally that, yeah. And there was toys and they morphed into a thing and there was a Megazord type thing and everything. It was Power Rangers in Ireland, yeah.
How's the movie?
The St. Patrick's movie? I have no idea.
Yeah.
We watched it in school one time. It's fine. It plays the hits.
It gets really weird when the Battle Zord fucking turns up.
That's fascinating.
Anyway, sorry for.
No, I love that. That's like the best type of production thing ever. I love hearing that.
What's his name? Patrick Sullivan ends up taking Lois out on a date. And we get this kind of to and fro jealousy between Clark and.
Well, they had a history too, which is
important,
right.
So
because she studied abroad in Ireland, I'm like, well, it would have made more sense if he studied abroad in America. That probably would have made more sense. But just saying.
Do you know she's not even the first Lois Lane to have had a trip to Ireland. Margot Kidder was in a movie with Gene Wilder called. Do you remember what it was called, Alan?
No.
It's like Boxer is from the Bronx or something like that. Some weird movie from the early 70s Margot Kidder was in, and she has an Irish accent in it. So Terry Hatcher is not even the first Lois Lane.
I think I'd rather watch that Power Rangers St. Patrick's movie.
I think I would too, to be honest.
So as Zach mentioned there, the backstory is that it's kind of mentioned in a quick throwaway line that Lois went to college, did a foreign term in Ireland in college, and I think she dated Patrick at the time, and she knew his family. I think his father was a bit of a Shankee or something, Rob, isn't he? She goes on about how he's a great storyteller, a kind of a verbal storyteller, and she remembers Colleen. So we do actually have an Irish actress in the episode, who is Colleen Foley is the character's name. She's played by an actress, Sheila Cullen. Even she sounds like she's a little bit of a fake Irish person in it, but she is actually a legitimate Irish actress, to be fair. And she's kind of his nanny. He's kind of his caregiver when he was growing up. And this is where we get the leprechaun, because we find out later in the episode that Colleen has an invisible leprechaun who sits on her shoulder
now,
and talks to her.
That is an actual thing in Irish folklore, that only certain people can see leprechauns and stuff.
Okay.
So, like, I feel like that might just be a coincidence. I don't know if they did any research there, but like, I did appreciate that.
And they haunt character actors, or
I'm gonna pose a question to y'all at this point, since we brought up a leprechaun. So obviously, Lois and Clark, it does a Mixes Pillock episode at some point, right?
Yes.
Would it not have been an angle to merge these two ideas together and have Mr. Mixes Pillock be like, a leprechaunish guy, and people say leprechaun, and it's really, you know what I'm saying? I'm just, that's...
Yeah, because they do reference leprechauns, I think, in that episode where it's just like people think of him as an imp or a leprechaun or something. Like, when Lois does all her research,
Like
at the Daily
if
Planet
I
on
was
leprechaun.
tasked, Smallville doesn't have a St. Patrick's Day episode, okay, but if I was tasked
And
with
it's
this
the worst
task,
for us, to be honest.
it was, that's,
They had 10 fucking years.
Do you know what Smallville does has? There's a scene in the Talon where Lana confronts some guys who are pouring whiskey into their
Yes.
coffee, and she says, "Sorry guys, the coffee here is strictly not Irish."
Wow.
that is a...
I always remember
I
that.
forgot that. That's
like season
that's
2
a
or
season
3.
episode. Precipice is the name. It's not a good episode. I really rewatch it. But Anson Mount is in it in the subplot. He's dating Lex Luthor's fiance's ex-boyfriend before he was famous, Anson Mount.
I do love me some Anson Mount, to be fair.
Yeah, that was before.
Dating Lex Luthor's.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it's a deep cut. But I'm just like, if I was running a Superman show and I was tasked with doing a St. Patrick's Day episode, I'd be like, oh, Mr. Pillick, let's bring him in and do that. And maybe and have him in a green costume instead of a yellow and red one and just run away with that. Oh, maybe he inspired the legend of the leprechaun, Jimmy. You know, there it is, right? A big picture of him in an Irish storybook, like drawn with pencil, and it's from 1406, and it's a Mr. Pillick in front of a pot of gold. Like, there it is, man. Anyway, that's what I would have done.
Look forward to Zach's
Speaking
Superman
of me
show
and Matt
in
pitching all these
1999.
episodes.
We have to get this guy in contact with Ilya Salkind, Rob, because this is solid gold.
Solid gold.
And the storybook was stolen by the Romans
was
when
Romans.
they invaded Balbriggan.
Yes. And we'll use the set of a Houston talk show, so we don't even have to build.
Look, I saw King Arthur starring Clive Owen, and they did not invade Ireland. I was very confused by this history.
Okay,
lesson.
so will we address that now, Alan?
Yeah, so the general the backstory to the episode is that there's antiquities being stolen. There's a scepter, the scepter of Claudius, I think they refer to it as, and there's a crown.
Yes.
And what's happening is they're stealing the antiquities to remove jewels that were stolen by the Romans during the Roman invasion of Ireland, taken from what they were originally in, which we later discover as a mask, and then put into the scepter and put it, which is something that did happen in other countries. To be fair,
Other
countries, they'd plunder, they'd take the jewels, the diamonds, whatever it was, the rubies stuff out of kind of the local antiquities, and then put them into their own, reforge them, and all that kind of stuff. But there's an issue with that here, Robin. What's the issue?
The Romans have never invaded Ireland.
No. The Romans never invaded Ireland. So I think they were in the UK. I think they were in Britain for in and around 400 years. But they...
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The King Arthur movie starring Clive Owen. They're at Stonehenge. That's how it ends.
Small historical inaccuracy, but otherwise a flawless episode.
So we get this character, this Miss Kipling character, while I think it's the crown is being stolen, because the scepter of Claudius is stolen in the opening sequence, because we get this woman crying hysterically, they've stolen the scepter of Claudius, it's worth $1 million.
I can't help but wonder, like, had we been invaded by the Romans, which we apparently were in the Lois and Clark universe, like, would we have better transport links?
Probably.
Like, would
Probably
we have
better
better
aqueducts.
architecture? Better aqueducts?
Yeah.
You know, I feel like the Midlands, you're from the Midlands, Alan. The Midlands would have been better, more built up, you know?
I'm from Waterford in the south, but I do live in the Midlands.
Sorry, you did live in the Midlands. Yeah. Sorry, incorrect.
But
Continue.
So when the crown is stolen, obviously they arrive a little bit too late, but we get introduced to this Miss Kipling character, who even as a kid, do you have Mr. Kipling over in America? That's a big thing here. Mr. Kipling is like it's like a company that makes like apple pastries and kind of buns and stuff like that, and treacle cakes and that. Mr. Kipling's a huge company over here, but even
Yeah, there are two confused faces on the Zoom right now,
Right.
and it's not the guys in green. Yeah.
I know Rudyard Kipling wrote The Jungle Book. That's what I know.
very good. So Miss Kipling, Veronica Kipling, played by Alana Levine, is maybe one of the most annoying characters in all of Lois and Clark. Does everybody agree, or do people like her? Her voice is like she's like Janice from Friends.
She's doing.
She's
doing a
100% Janice
They're
from
doing
Friends.
a Janice.
100%.
Yeah,
It's 1995. They're doing a Janice.
they're doing.
But it works because they know she's annoying. because she's like tied up in a chair. And Superman goes to help Lois. She's like, Superman, hello, over here. It's just,
But she's also very
kind of annoying the whole
attractive.
episode.
Yeah, she's
And
quite
it's
attractive.
like believable as someone that he might be interested in, but obviously he's not. But like all the Lois stuff of like, oh, I see you're entertaining. Like, it still works well, you know. I don't know. I think she adds a fun flavor to it.
She functions very well in this episode, in this context. I
The
agree.
delivery of when she walks into his apartment and he's like, "Oh, you know, can I get you anything?" And she's like, "Got any meat?" She really sells that. I think whoever this actress is, she's good. I like her.
Yeah, she is. To be fair,
She went for
yeah,
it.
Alana Levine. Yeah, she is. She's good. So Lois goes on the date with Patrick, and even though he's clearly interested in her, Lois kind of reveals afterwards that she's just going through the motions. She doesn't actually really have any interest in Clark. And as Rob mentioned there, Lois calls over to Clark's apartment, but Veronica Kipling has called over because she's an expert in these antiquities, whatever, and she wants to help Clark with his investigation. But obviously, she's interested in Clark. And this all leads up to a kind of a double date where Clark is kind of following Lois around a little bit because he's suspicious of Patrick, and they end up going on a double date to an Irish pub on Main Street.
Do you like Irish food?
You like
you guys
Irish
mentioned
food.
Earlier? That's
Yeah, like, look, I'm not going to take offense, guys, okay, to the whole Irish food thing, but it's not really it's not really the food, the cuisine of love, to be fair. Do you know what I mean?
I gotta say though, I like talking about this character though. I like her being around.
Yeah.
Like makes this love square we have going on that's not really love square work very well. Like even like Lois, she's because he's like she's just here investigating, and Lois is like, oh, I thought this is what we did, or did you dump me from that too? And Clark's like, can you stop right now? Like it was this very like relatable arguments between adults and relationship problems. Like that's where this show excels, even in the worst episodes, as Matt has said many times. Like these two shine through, and I really loved all that. And then the hijinks that get them to this quadruple date is fun.
Yeah. Although Clark is using the poor Janice woman a little bit here, you know, that's a bit shitty.
Yeah, because he does kind of pie her off, and then when he realizes that he needs to go on a double date to follow Lois to make sure she's okay, that's when he asks her, does she like the Irish food?
Listen, he told her she didn't have to come all the way down there and hand deliver all that stuff. So that's totally on her. Yeah, it is true though. He is kind of using her, but Jimmy, who never has anything to do after season 1 on this show. I like his reactions to seeing this woman and Clark go back and forth, right?
Yeah,
Yes, it's as if like one of us walked into a party after like a divorce with like a 20-year-old, and your friends would be like, "Oh, yeah, okay." Do you have great conversation? Yeah, good.
So Clark has obviously an immediate dislike of Patrick Sullivan, but then he is approached by Colleen, who tells him that basically he's lost his mind. He's subject to a familial curse. I think his father was subject to it as well, where they become obsessed with the power of the Druids and all this kind of stuff. And he kind of dismisses her a little bit when he finds out that she has an invisible leprechaun on her shoulder, which Lois uses to dismiss her later on as well when he tries to tell Lois or warn Lois about it. But like you said earlier on, Rob, he gets Jimmy to investigate it a good bit. That's where we get the mention, because he says previously in the episode that his father is in hospital in Ireland, and then they later find out that he's actually locked up in the Arkham Asylum next to Rob in Dublin.
Did you catch? And sorry if we've skipped it or this hasn't happened yet, but you know when Patrick and Lois are on the date in Centennial Park, and he's like, "Oh, I must bring you to my home in Balbriggan."
No, I missed that actually.
Yeah, he says,
I do remember this line.
I must bring you to my home in Balbriggan. On a clear day, you can see all the way to England. I do remember that. I was impressed by that, and I don't think I ever took note of that before. I remember that line from watching it as a kid, thinking, where in Ireland can you see all the way to England? Now, in fact, there are places where you can see all the way to England on a clear day, but Balbriggan is a real place. It's in Dublin. It's like I was really impressed by that, and I don't remember ever noticing that before, that he mentions Balbriggan.
I thought you were going to say it's on like the wrong side of the coast.
No. He actually is right. And like I filmed the show in Balbriggan, and there's a really epic kind of gothic kind of castle there. where I'd like to think that Patrick Sullivan probably lived. So.
To be fair, 80s and 90s American television has treated us so badly that we'll just appreciate anything at this point. Like if you
Throw us
get
a
a
bone
town
here.
land on the right
Sure.
side of the country, we're like, well done, guys, fair play.
Wow.
Great job.
So close.
This is did the X-Files ever do Irish stuff?
Oh, good question.
I don't know if the X-Files ever did, but Zach, you're a big fan of Kyle Chandler. Early Edition did a really, really terrible Irish episode. Like
Really?
it's so bad.
Oh, it was
like
the
it's
90s.
it's unbelievable. Like check that one out after this.
Up the long ladder, bad. Like,
Yeah, that bad. And they filmed some of it in Ireland, which is the worst part.
Up the long louder, Matt, who doesn't speak
Thank you.
Star
What
Trek
the
as well
hell?
as us.
Yeah, okay. Oh,
It is
Star
a
Trek.
season 2 Star Trek: The Next Generation episode where they go to a planet where everyone was Irish, and it's every stereotype you can think of. They beam them up, and they're surrounded by farm animals and chickens, and they use the replicator to make alcohol, and they sing songs.
Did they meet
and-
another guy named Scotty?
no, because he's from Scotland.
But but Riker hooks up with a very attractive
I
Irish
learned in
woman.
Smallville that doesn't matter.
Riker does hook up with a budget Maureen O'Hara.
Yeah. Do you not like girls?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's up the long ladder. We've said it 7 times. I know you were like, what are they talking about? So, but the X-Files is like, to me, I always go there like that's Exhibit A of 90s genre television that does like cultural appropriation and representation in all the wrong
Genie
ways. Like, oh,
episode.
Chinese, got it.
Yeah.
Indians, got
But
it.
everybody did a questionable like Chinatown episode at the time.
It's
you know,
true.
like
Even
Lois
Lois
and Clark. Yeah.
But it's like, oh, what's a mysterious other culture that we can tap into their
Yes.
mythology for our science fiction purposes? And anyway, that's
Matt, did Roland on Sabrina ever dress up as a leprechaun?
Yeah, Roland was a leprechaun the second or third time he showed up, and he gave Sabrina some wish tokens, and Sabrina and Salem used it to make Salem a boy for an episode, and he
Yes.
almost takes over the school.
I remember that one.
Great episode. Yes, he comes in on on like a plywood rainbow. It's excellent.
So I have a dumb question about darts to get us back to the quadruple date. Are darts invented in Ireland? Is that why?
I think so. It's a real English. Like, we do have dartboards in pubs, but
I know Bullseye from Daredevil is really into darts as well. So
Yeah,
the Daredevil movie.
darts are a big thing here. I don't know.
I love darts. I play darts, and I really enjoy darts. And obviously, the American misconception of not knowing what a triple 20 is in play here because they're over going for the bullseye, which is 50, but the triple 20 is 60. But anyway,
I feel like any sport that can be played after a lot of pints of beer is going to be popular in this country. I'm ashamed to say.
yeah, to be fair, it is the one stereotype that like we do read that it's all true. It's all true. I say as I drink from my pint of Guinness.
Darts is the only sport, though, that I've ever played with another podcaster, and that podcaster would be Zach. Actually, it was.
That's right. I forgot we'd played darts together when we met up. Yeah.
Is it even a sport?
I don't know. I mean, we were drinking, so that made it
I
sporting.
mean, if poker is a sport, then darts is a sport. You know. That's the way I see
Oh
it.
yeah, well I'll save that for another time. But Matt, the double date, we get Clark. I'm trying to say it in
There
the
it
fake
is,
Irish
Clark.
accent. Clark Kent. He kind of flexes. He does a flex there. In Casey's Irish pub, and
It's sexy as
to
hell.
be honest, yeah, even I kind of wanted to do him a little bit after.
I'm into this.
So
moment.
they're playing darts. Himself, Patrick challenged them to a game of darts, and I think it's just a 3 dart throw. The first 2 darts hit roughly the same points or whatever. And then he hears something. He hears an emergency. He has to go. And as he's walking, Patrick accuses him of forfeiting the game. And then without looking, he buries the dart right in the bullseye. And then without even looking, walks off. And Veronica's like, oh, it's just like, to bring us all back to Patrick Bergen, just like Robin Hood.
But that's because he doesn't just bury it. He splits the
it,
arrow
that's
like
right.
Robin. Like
Yeah.
he splits Patrick's bullseye dart.
Patrick can't even get the darts out of the board. Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah,
Now,
it's great.
I agree with you guys.
Sorry, I might like this show.
I agree with you guys. It is really cool. But Zach, I'm going to throw this to you as the other kind of Superman power point Dexter. Does Superman have like impeccable aiming? Is that one of his powers? And if so, why?
Precise muscle control, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's possible. You know, I think the more concerning thing is him just clearly showing off that he has superpowers. That's super suspicious. But I guess he could. Like I feel like Silver Age Superman totally.
Yeah.
Right. I'm sure that power set of Superman could do all that crazy stuff. Does he have perfect aim? I don't know. He doesn't ever really have to have aim on anything really because he doesn't shoot bows and arrows or guns, and so I would assume a person with his reflexes and abilities has good hand-eye coordination. So I'm tracks.
The only thing I'll say to this is that it's well established that this Clark is an athlete and an excellent athlete.
That's it.
So that's I
Name 5 times it comes up.
He beat Bo Jackson at basketball.
he did beat Bojack by flying.
I don't recall
Bo
this
can't
from
do
the
that.
series.
So it turns out that Patrick Sullivan is in fact. Oh, we never even mentioned the fact that he's making these sacrifices. He's killing these women, which is dark. It's pretty.
Why is he
Really
doing this?
dark.
Does someone know? Can someone explain to me?
It's not really explained.
Oh, brought
Okay.
to a screaming halt.
I
the
assume.
podcast by that
I
question.
assume it's like sacrifices to appease the druid gods.
Appease the ancients.
the
druid
ancient, the old
god,
ones, the
yes.
ancient ones, whatever they call it.
Catholic guilt.
Catholic guilt. Which is dark enough because they mentioned throughout the episode that there's bodies turning up all over the place of all these women, and we get quick shots of the women kind of being tied up and stuff.
Yeah, we see these really like ancient looking Party City Halloween
Candles.
candlesticks.
Party City.
And then we see them at this sacrifice ceremony a couple times, and then we see them in Patrick's hotel room, and it's like, you know, I feel like the episode it could have like. We knew he was the bad guy all along.
Right,
He doesn't
right,
even
right,
try to hide
No.
it. Maybe that's to its credit because we all know it's going to be him
Yeah.
anyway. But they don't even try to hide the fact that he's the one killing this woman.
Not only do we see them in his hotel room, but Lois has a moment of like, "Oh, they're beautiful." And it's
Yeah.
like they cost $3, Lois. You know, like,
They're not for sale.
yeah, he got them at Michael's.
And there's a quick throwaway line as well that we find out that that Colleen, his caregiver, his nanny, whatever you want to call her, is she's
Yes.
murdered. She turns up in the river or something in Metropolis, and it's a throwaway line that she's been murdered after she. And we see it. We see him kind of approach her and bring her down as a kind of a threatening, bring her down some steps. But then it's
safely rush her down some stairs.
and it turns out that she's been murdered. So it just goes to show that he's evil. And yeah, that's we get the appearance of Star too, which is someone that I constantly forget is in this episode. Is in this show.
Because in this one scene, we have seen a solid third of her Lois and Clark tenure.
Yeah, how
Like,
many
she
episodes
is-
she in? 3?
Tree.
Just
is
just one more
in
after
and
this,
out.
I guess.
And Just Say Noah in the next episode.
She doesn't go to the wedding, Matt?
They couldn't fly her up to that hill quick enough.
Either
Yeah.
one. This character is such a Lois and Clark. Here's the thing, right? Lois and Clark, goofy show, goofy guys. You guys coined that term, right? Enjoy, but see characters like the Miss Kipling on the good category of that. I like this is she's silly, but it works. And but Star is like in the bad category. I'm sad to say because it's like I don't know what's popular now. Miss Cleo, I guess let's get somebody in like that.
Yeah.
She's a psychic, isn't it fun? It's like tapping into some '90s fad of these TV psychics, and then they don't even go anywhere with it, and she's just silly the whole time. Like I don't know. Like I didn't have a lot of traction for that character.
She's a complete misfire. She's in 3 episodes. She has like a big deal like opening episode. Not even big deal, but like she comes into the plot and whatnot, and you're like, oh, I guess she's here to stay. And it's like, did the writers just completely lose interest before they even saw the actor? You know, it's very strange.
Well, I guess they learned that nobody was picking up on that because she doesn't come back anymore. Like
just
you said, Matt, after a
disappears
couple
into
of
the
them.
wind.
Yeah, it's just so quick that I'm like, it almost feels like someone behind the scenes, like, let's not.
I don't disagree with anything you guys have said. However, Olivia Brown, who plays Star, was one of the main cast members of Miami Vice. And I have to take this opportunity to point out that there is a wicked sick Irish-centric episode of Miami Vice where Liam Neeson, none other than Liam Neeson, in his sexy AF prime in the like late 80s, turns up as an IRA freedom fighter in Miami, and he seduces Sandra Santiago, and Don Johnson has to kill him, and it's incredible. It's truly truly brilliant.
Killer.
If I had to point to one
Killer.
like American show that does an episode about Ireland, that is my favorite. It's that episode of Miami Vice, and Liam Neeson is
That show is still so fun to watch.
he is
too.
smoking hot in it as well. He's
Yep, it's such a vibe.
so check that one out.
So it turns out that the stones were originally stolen by the invading Romans from a mask. I think it was called the Mask of the Ancient Ones, which is not too dissimilar from the mask from, air quote, the Mask from 1994.
Which came out earlier this year. Was did they? It's green. Was this an inspiration? Can we put a veto on all green things that are not kryptonite in Superman media, please? Right? Because it's not kryptonite. Either make it kryptonite or not. All right. But I'm like, my entire life, I've had to explain to people that the green crystal from Superman movies is not kryptonite. They got it's green stones here.
I do
get it's
agree
Ireland,
with
it has
this
to be green, but
completely, yes.
there are plenty of other colors. People like kryptonite is green, and nothing else should be in Superman
Right.
shows and movies. And that's my
No, I
TED
agree.
Talk. Thank you.
So Lois goes over. She goes over to confront Patrick. Or no, she goes over to just talk to Patrick. I think we have this brief scene where Star correctly predicts, and if I'm remembering correctly, is this the only time she makes a correct prediction with her powers?
Don't open
No,
the cabinet.
she's actually very helpful from time to time. Time to time being two other times, but yeah, no, she's
clearly read the
kind of
script.
Broken clock, but like she does show some actual mystical powers.
Right. So she warns Lois when Lois is going over to talk to Patrick, because Lois has decided that she's not going to pursue this thing with Patrick. And Star warns her, don't open the wardrobe, with the glowing rocks or whatever. And Lois goes over, and when she goes into Patrick's office, lo and behold, she sees this big cabinet with glowing green coming out of it, and she opens it up.
And it has the shrine to Lois in it.
And it has a shrine.
Shrine to
shrine
season
Lois.
1 and 2 Lois.
Yeah, see,
Yeah,
he's got like
yeah.
the haircut, but it's not just promo pictures. It's like some prom picture of Terry Hatcher or something.
Right,
like
yeah.
I appreciate it wasn't just
The
just
promo pictures is the Lane and Kent posters all over Metropolis.
And then Patrick turns up, and he tries to tackle. Well, he's got this kind of sidekick guy. I don't even know his name. Seamus. I think his name was.
Seamus.
Yeah,
Seamus, because they're Irish. His name
And
is
it's
Seamus.
spelt, because I had the subs turned on, it's spelt Shamus, which is just the worst way to spell Seamus. It's not remotely Irish.
Yeah.
How else would someone spell shame?
Seamus.
Yeah, S-E father A-M-U-S. Father refers to the accent above the E, which makes it an A sound. Yeah.
Thank you.
So we get he tells Lois he's going to sacrifice her, because I think it turns out his father had sacrificed his mother as well, had sacrificed Patrick's mother. That's why he ended up in the maybe I'm imagining that, but I'm almost sure there was a line where that's why he ended up
Irish
in
Arkham.
Dublin Arkham.
That sounds correct to me.
So
Yeah.
Dublin.
Superman turns up, and we get this climactic battle between Druidic Patrick Sullivan and Superman, which is good or bad. You guys decide.
I sent you guys a video before we started of the Willy Wonka experience from last year, the thing that went viral. And there was this moment in the Willy Wonka experience where this AI generated character called the Unknown appears from behind a wall and starts like shaking their hands at the kids, and the kids are like, oh, and literally Patrick Sullivan in this ridiculous Dr. Doom getup looks exactly like the Unknown in the Willy Wonka chocolate.
That's a great shout, though. That's a great way
fun.
to describe it. It's kind of Doctor Doom. He's wearing these druid hood and cloak, green robes.
Green robes,
He puts
yeah.
on the mask. The jewels are glowing bright green, and they basically have a heat vision standoff.
Yeah. Yeah, it's Harry Potter and Voldemort, like locking wands, right? Much stupider.
Why where are these powers come from?
From the ancient
ones?
emeralds of the...
And once you had to put the stones
into
back in the mask.
What else? What came out of
to-
the crap? Oh, there was one stone in each of the thing that was...
And the mask was in that safety deposit box of that bank.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
God.
there's a robbery of a bank, and it turns out it's in the safety deposit box of the bank. Clark doing a little bit of investigative journalism. I omitted that, where he pretends to be the insurance rep and calls the owner of the deposit box to find out what was in it. A little bit of investigative journalism on the part of Clark, and while Superman's weakness is kryptonite, the Druid, we don't have a name for Patrick O'Sullivan's character when he gets all
Ancient
Druid
One.
magicked up, but the Ancient One's weakness seems to be, getting tripped up because Lois kicks him in the shin and he falls over, and then Superman uses heat vision to
vaporize him.
In fairness, his weakness seems to be lasers. So that, I think that's true of most everyone.
Can I ask? I'm going to throw this at Zach again. What are Superman's weaknesses or vulnerabilities, Zach, would you say?
Well, there's kryptonite, but there's also magic. So the Irish magic is affecting Superman here. So that is fine.
So why is he not able? Why is his heat vision effective on this magical creature?
Well, he has to work really hard at it, and
okay,
right?
I'll allow it.
To be fair, he is sitting on his ass when he does it, so I
Yeah.
don't know how hard he's
Anyone
actually
that
working.
knows Zach, the fact that he has to defend Superman and magic stuff is like killing him inside.
Yes, I don't. I'm never really on board with the magic stuff when it comes to Superman. Honestly, there's so much I get your fantasy out of my sci-fi. Okay, get this out of here. But they could have done a little more. They could have like grappled a little bit so you could see they didn't have his strength as much, maybe. But they did.
Yeah.
They did an optical effect, early CGI beam battle with the eye beams, and the fact that he gets vaporized is just because it's cleaner that way. You don't want to have a guy burned to death on ABC Sunday night at 7:00 Central.
Can't we just send him to Dublin Arkham?
Well, what do you do? Like, you melt the mask or something? I don't like.
Yeah, you blow the shit out of the mask.
The Arctic police weren't around that day, so
Yes.
You're right.
If Superman can vaporize Patrick Sullivan, then Superman can snap Zod's neck. That's all I'm saying. Okay.
This isn't even the last time Dean Cain Superman killed someone. Like, do you remember the Shadow in season 4? The guy with the Alec
he
Baldwin
gets
shadow.
killed.
Oh,
You're right.
yeah. Like, he's like phasing around or something. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. They don't.
That was a bit of a whoopsie daisy.
Well, when there's like magic stuff involved, it's not always like it's well, it's not really. He didn't know that was gonna happen. Like, he doesn't
Right.
understand
Who's
how
to
this
say?
works. So that's the trapdoor of that argument, right? I'm like, well, that's his magic. He was killed by his own dark sorcery. All right, he did this to himself. So that's the explanation, and it's fine, I guess.
It was beauty that killed the beast.
Yeah, there it is.
Right.
I have to say, though, as a kid even, and even now, watching an episode of Lois Clark where there is this kind of super villain battle at the end, that wasn't a regular thing on Lois and Clark all the time. So I enjoyed that. Like, that was exciting. I know it's TV 90s kind of, final battle, but it was effective for me. I thought it was exciting at the time, and I still think it holds up
If
okay.
only there was another Superman show from the 90s where he fought supervillains that looked like they cost $12 to make.
No one has any recollection of one, so that's probably not true. I will say, like, for a kid watching this, like, this is maybe a little bit scary, this episode, especially with the rituals and the sacrificing of the nice ladies and whatnot. And, like, I think this is effective. I think this is kind of a big swing for them. Effective is maybe too strong a term, but it's what the show was doing at the time. It's just like, let's take a big swing. Let's see how it goes. This is not the first or last time that the show is going to go into like real magic-y stuff. And I get why they're trying it. They've got to stretch the bounds a little.
Well,
bit.
Matt, the formula for Lois and Clark is like there's siblings, and one of them is an inventor with a heart of gold. The other one's a nefarious criminal. And the end of the episode is usually the machine being used against Superman or Lois, and then something happens and they have to outdo the machine. So this is outside the format, I guess. So there is that, right?
Yes, totally. Yes, absolutely.
Did you guys get the impression that when Patrick Sullivan put on the mask that he was possessed by this kind of deity creature, or do you think, because his voice completely changes as well, or is it still
I
just
would have
him?
loved for them to establish something like that, but they did not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't quite get that. I just thought they were going all villainy with it.
I think he's possessed by Madonna from Dick Tracy, because he sounds like the blank in that scene.
So that's basically the end of the episode itself. the conclusion of the episode itself, we get a little tidbit at the end where Clark realizes that he's wants to be with Lois and he's madly in love with her, and he was stupid all along, and he goes over and he tells her all this, and we get this cute kind of a thing where he talks about him being sick and how his head is cleared up now, and she misinterprets it that he's talking about when he was in love with her, but really he's talking about the way he's been acting recently. And they have this big kiss, and then she turns around and she goes, "No, I can't let you keep doing this to me." And that's when you're like, no. I remember being a kid going, no, just love each other for God's sake. And that kind of extends this whole drama into another few episodes.
I love it. I love this whole thing about loving me is like being sick. Like, well, kind of. Like, it's like I had a fever. Like, I was delirious. Like, all that works. And I like, it's 90s feminism or whatever. It's where the show is. But I like her kind of taking the power back at the end of the scene. It was just like, no, now you want to be together and I have to? Like, fuck you. I like, again, I could have used much more of this by the end of the next episode. We're together forever. But it's fun that she kind of takes the power back a little bit here.
Yeah, as the Smallville fan here, I much respond to this kind of relationship genre with Superman. Like in the last couple of years of Smallville, especially season 10, Lois knows Clark's secret, so she's in on that. And their relationship drama is like, how do we maneuver like you being the superhero and me being your girlfriend, wife? Like, how does that even work? And you got to do this, and you got responsibilities, and like I respond to that so much more than like. Clark and Lana in the early years. Oh, what are you hiding from me? Where did like all the conflict coming from that? The conflict coming from everybody can relate more to those kind of conflicts, like Superman and Lois, and they're like adults, and like we're trying to figure all this stuff out together. Than like I'm just lying to the person I'm with all the time. We can't figure it out. So I respond really well to that. And I think that's some good stuff. And that to me, that elevates a lot of this nonsense in this episode. Is their relationship? And I did want to throw this question to you all about this because this kind of puts it in perspective. Even at the beginning of the episode, they're talking about this. Like Clark's deal with like not being with Lois is like, oh no, everybody's gonna know that Lois is married to Superman. I'm like, no, that's the whole point of your secret identity. Like that's the point of the Clark Kent secret identity is that like, you could have a relationship with Lois or whoever, and they don't go after them. But the problem with this entire and it's across all Superman media. Everybody knows that Superman's always around to save Lois Lane, so they got the same problem. Sure, they cannot be together and have the same exact problem. You know what I'm saying?
Zach, when you say it, it sounds stupid.
It is.
My favorite thing about this show too, and I know there's things in the comics and whatnot, but it's just like not only is Superman good friends with Lois Lane, but like tight with Clark Kent too. Like they are best buds, and everybody knows it, and that's the funniest damn thing to me.
That's why I love that episode where they actually kidnap Clark for a change. That's why
the Metallo episode.
That was a great one.
We know Superman loves you. Yeah.
Do you have anything to say to that, Rob? To that?
I gotta say, I mean, even as a kid, I felt like the relationship stuff was kind of getting a little bit contrived at this point. Like, we have Clark proposing, and like he feels so strongly about Lois that he wants to marry her, and then like a couple of episodes later, he's going, actually, I don't know about this. Maybe this isn't such a good idea. And then an episode later again, he's backtracking on that again. It just got a little bit exhausting at this point, I think. And I wanted them to just get, I totally agree with you, Zach, and Matt as well, that like this is an interesting dynamic, but I think it just too much of it happened too soon, and they needed to stretch it out a little bit more. To really sell it. That's all I'd say there. I remember especially like rewatching the show as a teenager. I was like, oh, this is just that they're spinning the wheels a bit here too much. Not that I would fault like the actors or anything like that, but just I think they could have stretched it out a bit more.
Well, if anything with Lois and Clark, I think one of the biggest issues was that he just proposed too early. Like the proposal, I think, was way too early, and like they're dating for like 2 weeks in it. Like if the proposal,
as Perry would say,
yeah,
shouldn't you try dating first?
Yeah.
Well, what can they not do until they're married, though, Alan? On a 90s TV show,
argue over filling the dishwasher.
Yeah.
So, guys, if nobody has any other thoughts on it, we might just do kind of a final thoughts and maybe a ranking out of 5 for this episode, just to see where we are. Zach, do you want to go first?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's a fun watch. You know, I kind of embrace these absurdities at this point of older stuff, and we just have a good laugh about it. Because if you're entertained, right, and it is. I mean, don't you guys tell me it's harmless, right? The stereotypes of Ireland. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, overall, like.
To be fair, as stereotypes go, it is very
So it's like,
harmless,
look at silly Hollywood interpretation of things, but nothing's truly offensive as far as I can gauge from you guys. But a fun time. I like the Lois and Clark stuff in here. Like you would like. I mean, Lois and Clark is the show, and they always deliver on that front for the most part. And it was just there were so many little things in the episode that like kind of little moments of Clark parallel parking the car, him and Lois getting these little tiffs like in front of other people, like when they show up at when Clark shows up with Miss Kipling at the double date, Lois is like, I cannot believe you followed us here. Like those little moments between two people that know each other really well, sniping back and forth, but they care about each other. So all that stuff carries on through, and there's fun Superman stuff with his powers, right? The dartboard, the him paging. Oh, talk about a time capsule. Paging Lois on her pager. He pages her.
That's how he finds her.
Yeah,
That's
Superman
right.
to fight.
The paging thing.
But that's what some people would do with superpowers. So anyway, there's lots of charming stuff like that. A fun time. A lot of absurdity. So I don't know. I mean, 3 out of 5 stones of power or whatever you want to call them. I don't know.
I was going to say invisible leprechauns, but we can go with stones of power, no problem. Matt, yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I'm right there with you. It's a weird episode of Lois and Clark, just plot wise, but they're in a fun place. And to what Zach says too, I love the idea that like, even though they're not together, even though they're pissed off at each other, there is still just like this sense of love and trust between them that I find fascinating, and why I wish that this era was more stretched out, because it's just like, I want to see her pissed at him for 10 episodes and of course be helping him be Superman that whole time, because like they are, for better or worse, they are a partnership for life now, whether it's romantic or not. So that, I think that stuff's very fun. You should be, anytime you start hearing Irish music, scary Irish music in this episode, you should get worried. Like it's not going to be a good scene, but for the most part, it's fun. I like didn't super enjoy this when I did the podcast. Going back to it the other night, I was just like, God damn, your worst day watching Lois and Clark is still better than most other days. So 3 out of 5. 3 out of 5. Barely seen Lane and Kent posters that I obsessed over.
Rob?
I you know what I'm going to, like, I can't, in good conscience, like, first of all, I have to recall my childhood memories wherein I did feel like, do you know what, this formula is getting tired. And also some of the relationship stuff, I just feel like they just rushed it a bit, and it was really, really clear in this episode and the previous episode that they were rushing the relationship stuff, and it didn't feel genuine, it felt contrived. And then in addition to that, like, even leaving aside the Ireland of it all, the villain in this is just dumb, and him looking at the mask saying, "Oh, the power will be mine." Like it is just the height of cheesiness. Like, you know, you guys make fun of Superboy so much. This is straight out of Superboy. Like this is the most most Superboy Lois and Clark has ever been.
That's fair. That's fair.
So, but in saying that, I'm really grateful that this episode exists, because it's so much fun to talk about, and it is really cool that Dean Cain got to fight a weird Doctor Doom guy with emerald eyes. So it is a 2 out of 5, but it's a charitable 2 out of 5. I'm grateful that it exists. I don't love this episode at all, and I will always be offended by a bad Irish accent by an American or a British actor. But I'm glad that it exists, and I'm glad we got to talk about it.
I'm going to go with you guys, Matt and Zach. I always enjoyed this. It's probably the ones I go back to quite regularly when I just want to watch something, you know, when I want to watch just one that I know is light and fun and I get a bit of a kick out of it. I think, the accents are terrible. The depiction of Irish culture is, you know, awful, bastardized, whatever you want to call it. Would I have preferred if they had cast an Irish actor? Absolutely. But again, like you said, Zach, there's so many great relationship character moments sprinkled throughout. It's a lot of fun. I like that Miss Kipling character and the dynamic she brings to it. And at the end of the day, any episode that ends with a eye laser battle between Superman and, like you said, Rob, a Doctor Doom stand-in, yeah, I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5 Guinnesses.
Do you know what? I'll disagree with you there on one point, Alan. The depiction of Irish culture in this is not terrible. Like, it's fine. Like, there's nothing offensive in this.
Yeah, well, maybe the inaccuracy of Irish history, maybe that's a better way of putting it. Like,
Ireland being invaded by the Romans is not.
Like the whole leprechaun thing is grand. It is what it is. I could go year in year out without ever hearing about a leprechaun here until it comes up to St. Patrick's Day, and they're fucking everywhere. But yeah, no, maybe the inaccuracy in relation to it. But again, like, we were so used to it. It was so kind of gaslit into watching all this stuff back in the day that was so wildly inaccurate. But I don't find it in any way offensive or anything like that. I always think it's good fun. And just a good episode. I enjoy it. I always have. So before we sign off, guys, is there anything, Zach, that you have coming up that you want to talk about, or you want to plug the podcast or anything like that?
No, just always on Smallville. We're at always Smallville with one S on social media platforms and email, and we're going through Smallville. And unfortunately, there was no St. Patrick's Day episode of Smallville. We got a couple of Thanksgiving episodes. We got an episode and a half of Christmas. We got 2 Valentine's Day episodes. I got a Halloween. Got 2 Halloween episodes, I think.
So why do Smallville hate the Irish?
I think the Luthers were Scottish. I think that might be why. I don't know. Maybe that's the thing. But
that's right. Brick by brick.
I'll go with that. Yes, the castle allegedly that Lionel Luther moved to Smallville is from Scotland, allegedly.
What are you talking? You have a Silver Banshee episode, and she's
that's true. I mean, the closest thing we had.
Super clear Irish character, right?
Rob, you were there with us, Matt. We talked about the Silver Banshee, which as we determined is from an island between Scotland and Ireland. So we're covered there. That's as close as we got. That's the thing. Smallville whiffed on Mr. and Mrs. Pidlick so bad. I would have preferred, again, I'm locked into this idea. I have to do something with it. Like, they should have not done anything with him. And there's your St. Patrick's Day episode on Smallville with Mr. and Mrs. Pidlick. But anyway, all that to say, Smallville, Young Superman show. If you love that show, check it out. If you like Lois and Clark, all of the main, or at least, a couple of Lois and Clark themselves appear on Smallville at least in one episode. So check it out from the show. And there you have it. A lot of fun talking about Superman stuff as well. This is the year of Superman. We got a new Superman movie coming out, so we'll be having all of it. That'll be fun. That's the fun thing about us all being Superman podcasting friends together. Like, we'll all have our own episodes about the new movie, and it's be a fun time, trailers and all the build up and everything come out. And I'm cautiously optimistic for it, and I'm hoping it brings us together. Like I think the Batman brought together Batman fans. I don't know. Comic book fans, they argue about everything nowadays, so I can't really even say that with 100% certainty. But I feel like the overall general consensus is the Batman was great, and I would hope that Superman will bring us together on that way for the new Superman movie. So there you have it.
Man, I was just thinking there when you said there about Silver Banshee, I would have loved to have seen what Lois and Clark did with Silver Banshee back in the 90s.
I mean, it might not have been far off from what Smallville did. It was
incredible. They nailed it with Mixie.
Yeah.
Zach, I have to just point out as well, and I hate saying this because I really, really like that idea about Mrs. Pidlick being, connected to leprechaun stuff and all that.
Yeah.
In the Irish language, the letters X, Y, Z or Z and K don't exist.
Well, that is a serious barrier.
that's gonna hinder him.
All right, that's a writing challenge. I'll get back to you on that. Thank you.
Yeah,
but maybe that's why he never got banished. He couldn't say his own name.
It's the only place I could go.
There it is. There it is.
We've already solved the problem.
Fixed
Thank you,
it. Yeah.
That's why Matt and I are like Alan Miles on Smallville.
I think we're both Deborah Joy Levine, but that's
Matt. Can we expect any future episodes of Lois and Clark, or are we? Is it on the shelf for another little while?
Is there something on the books at the moment? I don't even know, Alan. But it might, maybe, possibly. Yeah, I've got a few fun things. I think fun. I don't know. Coming up for Lois and Clark. So if anybody loves the show and hasn't checked out the podcast, please check out Lois and Clark. the new podcasts of Superman. Don't embarrass me and listen to season 1 or season 2. But by season 3, really hit my stride. And since then, it's been a lot of fun and on and off episodes. And then I might have an Always Hold On To title coming out later this year. And Zach and I are on his Patreon constantly having the time of our lives talking about comics and other weird things. So if you got a couple bucks, check out Zach's Patreon, really just for a month, and then cancel. Like, just listen to that.
I mean, I would prefer you don't, but that's fine. You can
just don't listen to him. Just like throw him like $5 and you're fine.
I had phenomenal fun listening to your Man of Steel episode there the other week. It was great fun.
And hey, shout out to you, Matt, for being my partner in crime there on so many of these Patreon podcasts we have. So you make it a lot of fun.
Oh, it's such a joy, dude.
And just for listeners as well, don't forget to check out the Lois and Clark, the Legacy Facebook group as well. We have a lot of, there's a lot of discussions and posts and, hidden, long lost tidbits and stuff found and posted on that Facebook group as well. If you're a lover of Lois and Clark, Rob, do you want to take us out?
Sure. To be sure, as sure as I'm Irish, I'll take us out. Stay safe, stay super, and take care.